Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As you are well aware, we lost one of our numbers overnight, and I can hear people coughing. So we need all of you to take your vitamins and eat your Wheaties and get a little exercise and get a good night's sleep. We need everybody to be healthy and strong. We're coming into the home stretch, I promise. But the record should show that the members of the jury have joined us in open court, and we are ready to hear evidence from, well, and I just want to express appreciation again. You folks are working hard. There's been a lot of information that's come in, and we continue to appreciate your presence here, and we know that you're working hard to do your job well. So, the state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Kent Steenblock.
Good morning, Mr. Steenblock.
Good morning.
Please pause and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and be seated. There are just a couple of suggestions I have while we're in the courtroom. Please use that microphone so that we can hear your testimony. As the attorneys ask you questions, please wait until they finish the question, even if you know where they're going with that question. We want to make sure that we hear the full question and all of your answer. The attorneys will give you the same courtesy of allowing you to finish your answer before they ask a question. And with that, please tell us your full name and spell your first and last names for the record.
Okay. My full name is Kent, K-E-N-T, James Steenblock, S-T-E-E-N-B-L-O-C-K.
Thank you. You may proceed with your examination. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please tell us how you are employed?
Yes, I'm a lieutenant with the Linn County Sheriff's Office. I'm currently assigned to Linn County Correctional Center as the Assistant Jail Administrator.
And how long have you been employed by the Linn County Sheriff's Office?
Been with the Sheriff's Office for 26 years. It'll be 27 years in August.
And how long have you been in your current role as the Assistant Commander of the Linn County Correctional Center?
Since 2011.
In that role, do you have access to the records of inmates who are housed at the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall being asked to check if Jerry Burns and an inmate, Michael Allison, were housed in the same unit at the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, I accessed the jail management system and ran a cell block history of both of those inmates.
Okay. And did you find that they had been housed in the same unit at the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Lieutenant, I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 16A1 and 16A2. I think first we're going to look at 16A1. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is the cell history for each inmate. This is the basically the PDF form or report that is generated by the jail management system.
Okay. And who is the inmate whose record that applies to?
The first one for 16A1 is the cell history for inmate Jerry Lynn Burns.
And what dates does it cover?
On this specific one, I began the cell history check on September 1st. So basically this begins on September 2nd, 2019, showing the cell assignment beginning at 18:29 hours, which is 6:30 p.m.
And what is the final date on that document?
The final date would be January 29th of 2020.
And just generally speaking, what type of information is contained in this document?
So this type of information that's contained on the cell history will show the cell location, which will say if it's an old cell location, let's say, for example, they were moved from one cell block to another cell block. In inmate Burns' particular case, he was assigned already in 4E dorm, which is on 4th floor of the Linn County Correctional Center. He was assigned to bed number 11. So on the form, it'll say 4E dorm 11, which means 4th floor E dorm bed number 11.
Okay. And is this a document that is compiled in the regular course of business at the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, it is.
And to your knowledge, is the information on this document true and accurate?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit 16A1.
Mr. Spees, have you had an opportunity to inspect that proposed exhibit?
I have, Your Honor. We have no objection.
The court will receive and make part of the record states 16A1.
May we publish, Your Honor?
You may.
Lieutenant, it's going to be
Yep.
popping up on the screen behind you. And you've got, right behind you, you've got a very high-tech pointer, if you could pick that up.
Okay.
And you told us already kind of the information that's on this document, but maybe if you could walk us through what we're looking at, starting with where the inmate name is.
Absolutely. So the inmate name is going to be located at the top of the form where it'll have the booking number, which is a specific number that's assigned to the inmate, and then the inmate name, Jerry Lynn Burns, which would be located at the top.
Okay. And now I see columns for old cell location and new cell location. Could you explain those to us?
Absolutely. So as you can see, booking number 2018-09962 is a number that was generated in the year 2018. So this housing assignment, since I began running it on September, the beginning of the month of September 2019, it'll show the cell location. LCCC stands for Linn County Correctional Center, floor 4, E-dorm, bunk number 11, and that's how that reads.
And then I'm going to scroll down just a little bit. It appears on at the bottom of the screen, or towards the bottom of the screen, on October 17th, 2019, it moves from LCC 4 E-dorm 11 to LCCC 4 E-dorm 1. In that situation, is Mr. Burns still housed in the same dorm location?
That is correct. So you're referring to this location here, so this is number 11 and number 1. So that assignment, that reassignment is from bunk 11 to bunk number 1. So he moved to a different bunk location in E-dorm itself. So he did not leave E-dorm, he did not leave 4th floor.
Okay. And during the entire period that's covered in this exhibit, Mr. Burns was housed on the 4th floor in E-dorm. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Lieutenant, I'm going to ask you to look at the document marked as 16A2, should be in front of you.
Yes, it is.
And do you recognize this document?
Yes, that is also a cell history, but this is for inmate Michael James Allison.
Okay. And what dates does that document cover?
When I did my initial search, I again started the 1st of September. Mr. Allison came into facility on September 17th, so the first date that would show would be September 17th, 2019, at which time he was assigned to 4 E-dorm.
Okay. And what's the final date on that document?
The final date on this document is January 31st of 2020.
Okay. And is this also a document that's compiled and maintained in the regular course of business at the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, it is.
And is the information on this document true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
The state would move to admit 16A2.
Without objection.
16A2 will be received and made part of the record.
May we publish, Your Honor?
You may.
So for 16A2, again, is this the cell history for Michael Allison?
Yes, it is.
And what cell location was he located in?
In this particular case, as you can see, he was assigned a new cell location. Again, LCCC 4 E-dorm, bunk number 2.
And looking over 16A2, was Mr. Allison housed on the 4th floor in E-dorm throughout that entire period?
He was housed in E-dorm up until he was moved on January 31st.
Okay. So up until January 31st, Mr. Allison was in the E-dorm on the 4th floor?
Yes, he was.
And during that same time period, Jerry Burns was also in the E-dorm on the 4th floor, correct?
Yes, he was.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Now, Lieutenant, is there a system of video surveillance at the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, we utilize a Bosch DVR system, which is a proprietary video system for the Linn County Correctional Center.
And does that video surveillance system cover areas inside particular cell blocks or dorms?
Yes, we have cameras positioned in all of our cell blocks. In E-dorm's case, we have 2 separate cameras that face 2 different directions.
And in your role at the Linn County Correctional Center, do you have access to that video?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall being asked to review the video for the 4E dorm?
Yes, I was.
And what were you asked to look for in that video?
I was asked to review video of a possible interaction between 2 inmates that occurred on, I believe it was January 11th of 2020.
Okay. And were you able to find video showing that interaction between, and were those inmates Mr. Burns and Mr. Allison?
Yes, the 2 inmates in question were inmate Jerry Burns and inmate Michael Allison, and they were both housed in 4E dorm together.
Okay. And do you recall what in particular you were looking for in terms of an interaction?
Yes, I was looking for, in particular, an interaction that involved the exchange of a newspaper and the writing on that newspaper of an apparent signature that was made by Mr. Burns.
And were you able to find that interaction?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Lieutenant, I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 16D. Can you tell us what that is?
It's a CDR or a DVD, possibly, that I believe would contain the jail video, as it is indicated with the case number, the subject's name, and then it says jail video on the front of it.
And have you had a chance to review the contents of that disc?
Yes, I did.
And does that disc contain a true and accurate recording of the jail video from the Linn County Correctional Center?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to admit 16D.
Have you had an opportunity to review 16D?
I have, Your Honor, yes, and we have no objection.
16D will be received and made part of the record.
Permission to publish?
You may.
And Lieutenant, is this video covering the 4th floor E-dorm at the Linn County Correctional Center? I haven't pulled it up yet, but to your recollection, is that...
From my recollection from reviewing it, it does.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to stop it right here. Could you tell us what we're looking at in this video?
So this would be one of the camera views of 4E dorm, and in this particular case, the camera view is pointed towards the main door, so this is the main entrance door into 4E dorm. There are also 2 other doors on either side where inmates do move through and are access to other cell blocks within the facility.
And then there's an individual in the middle of the video wearing a white shirt with no sleeves. Who is that?
This is inmate Michael Allison.
Okay. And then there's an individual sitting at a table off to the left as we're looking at it. Who is that?
This would be Mr. Jerry Burns.
Okay. And is there a timestamp on that video?
Yes. As it'll show down here, it says 1/11/2020, be 9:45, in this particular case, 01 a.m.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, Lieutenant Steenblock, this was a video that you found from January 11th of 2020, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the interaction that we just saw was between inmate Michael Allison and Jerry Burns, as Mr. Burns passed the, wrote on a newspaper and then passed it over to Mr. Allison?
That is correct.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Cross-examination for Mr. Steenblock.
Thank you. Good morning, Lieutenant.
Good morning.
Lieutenant Steenblock, in the video that we've just seen, there is what appears to be Mr. Allison pointing down at the newspaper. Is that how you interpret that portion of the video?
Yes, it is.
And then standing over Mr. Burns?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Allison, at the outset of the video, doing calisthenics appears to be physically imposing. Would you agree?
Well, he's doing push-ups, yes.
Yeah. Concerning exhibits 16A and 16A1 and 16A2, there are references in those exhibits to each of the respective inmates going to a conference room. Would that be a conference room on the 4th floor of the Linn County Correctional Center, or could it be a conference room on a different floor?
It depends on if they request a specific conference room on a different floor. We have conference rooms on 2nd floor, 3rd floor, and 4th floor. There's really no variance in regards to it when they're moved from one location to another.
So 16A1 and 16A2 wouldn't necessarily reflect on which floor that conference room visit would have taken place?
That is correct.
Is it your experience, Lieutenant Steenblock, that when an inmate meets with law enforcement, that conference ordinarily occurs on a floor other than the floor in which they're housed?
Yes, most commonly it does.
Okay, so for example, when Mr. Allison met with Mr. Maybanks and Lieutenant Denlinger, about which we've heard testimony, that would have occurred on a floor other than 4th floor?
It more than likely would have occurred on a different floor because the 4th floor conference rooms are a little bit more visible.
Exactly. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have for you.
Okay.
Anything further for Lieutenant Steenblock, Mr. Harris?
Lieutenant Steenblock, at the beginning of the video, it showed Mr. Allison doing some push-ups.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is it common for inmates to attempt to exercise or do push-ups or other type of calisthenics in the dorms?
It's very common. As a matter of fact, with the majority of our cell blocks, we have recreation equipment in those cell blocks that the inmates can utilize.
Okay. In this situation, though, in this circumstance, though, in the E dorm, what we were looking at, there's not that equipment, so they may just have to do push-ups on their own.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Anything further for Lieutenant Steenblock?
Yeah, I neglected to ask you, are bunks 1 and 2 next to one another?
Bunks 1 and 2 are actually attached to each other. It should be bunk 1, and then bunk 2 should be one unit.
Okay, so are they up and top and bottom?
One will be a top bunk, and the other one would be a bottom bunk.
And then the next bunks over would be 3 and 4?
That's how the numbering system works, correct?
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Harris?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Steenblock. You may step down. The state may call its next witness.
State recalls again, Investigator Matt Denlinger.
Please pause and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and be seated.
Thank you.
And just for purposes of the record, please introduce yourself one more time and spell your first and last names.
Matthew Denlinger, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, and Denlinger is D-E-N-L-I-N-G-E-R.
Thank you. You may proceed with your examination, Mr. Maybanks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Matt, third and last time here. I want to follow up on a few things that have been introduced at trial here. First question for you is, do you recall on January 28th, 2020, just a few weeks ago, having an opportunity to meet with an inmate at the Linn County Correctional Center by the name of Michael Allison?
Yes.
And was that a meeting that was requested by you or somebody else?
Mr. Allison's attorney, Chad Freese, reached out to us and said that his client had some information he wanted to share with us.
And was that a meeting then that took place not only with Mr. Allison and his attorney and you, but also me?
Correct.
As a result of that meeting, did you complete a report?
I did.
When you spoke with Mr. Allison at that time on January 28th of 2020, and as you again heard testimony about it here yesterday in court, do you recall him talking about an incident during a court hearing where Mr. Burns reported that he made eye contact with you in the hallway?
I do. He mentioned that, and then I do recall a time after one of the recent court hearings that we had that Mr. Burns walked out of the courtroom and stared at me as he walked by, made eye contact.
And was that look or that stare more than just a passing glance?
Yeah, it felt like it, definitely.
Did you have an opportunity to observe the newspaper that Mr. Allison reported that Mr. Burns autographed for him and that we just saw on the video here in court?
Yes.
When you saw that, what, if anything, did you and our team here do to attempt to find a known signature for Mr. Burns?
We checked court filings and just found a document that had a known signature of Jerry Burns on it.
Were you able to compare that newspaper provided by Mr. Allison, of which a copy was made and introduced into evidence, to the court filing with Mr. Burns' known signature on it?
Yes, we compared the two of them, and they look the same.
May I approach a witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Behind the witness what I've marked, what the state's marked as State's Exhibit 16E. Yeah, Investigator Denlinger, what is this?
This is the court filing that we found that had Jerry Burns' known signature on it.
And does this court filing contain some editing of personal information that was on it?
Yes, it does.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of the court filing minus the edited personal information from the public court file of the 6th Judicial District of Iowa, State of Iowa versus Jerry Lynn Burns, FECR 129718, a time-stamped public record?
Yes.
I move to enter State 16E, Your Honor.
Without objection.
16E will be received and made part of the record.
May we publish, Your Honor?
You may.
And now we're looking at, on the media above you, State's Exhibit 16E just recently published here. And is that Mr. Burns' signature on the bottom?
Yes, it is.
Now, if we could please republish, I believe it was 16C. And is that 16C, again, the photocopy made of the newspaper?
Correct.
Does this show the two signatures next to each other?
Yes.
And is that the comparison that you made when you retrieved the public document with Mr. Burns' known signature?
Yes, that's the comparison I used.
All right, thank you. Matt, I want to go back to December 19th, 2018. This is the day that you met with Mr. Burns at his office. As a result of the interview with Mr. Burns, was he arrested that day and taken to the Cedar Rapids Police Department?
Yes.
How was he transported?
He was transported in the back of Officer Boyer's car. I rode in the back with him.
And what kind of car did Officer Boyer have?
It's a Ford Explorer, it's kind of a squad car, although it's not marked. It's all black. But it does have the normal squad car features on the inside.
Does it have the ability to record conversations, interactions that take place in the back portion of the squad car where arrestees are transported?
Yes, it has audio and video recording capabilities.
And did you sit with Mr. Burns in the vehicle during transport?
I did.
Did he proceed to continue to talk to you in the vehicle?
Yes,
Was that encounter captured on video?
it was.
May I approach a witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Handing the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit 14B. Excuse me, do you recognize that exhibit?
I do. This is a DVD copy of the transport video.
Does that contain then a recording of an excerpt of your conversation with Mr. Burns?
Yes.
During this transport, I know you were asked this yesterday about timing, but do you remember approximately how long that was?
That was about 45 minutes.
Okay. And during that 45-minute transport, were there periods of, extended periods of silence?
Yes.
And is this 14B captured just an excerpt of that conversation with him?
Correct. Just a short excerpt of the car ride.
Is it a fair and accurate recording of that conversation between you and Mr. Burns that was captured in the back of the transport car to the Cedar Rapids Police Department on December 19th of 2018?
Yes.
Move to enter State's 14B, Your Honor.
Have you had an opportunity to review 14B, Mr. Spees?
I have, Your Honor, but I do have a couple of questions for the witness, if I may, please.
Proceed.
Investigator Denlinger, so are we to understand that the portion of the video shown in 14B has the silent portions excised or redacted from that video?
Yes.
So if we are to determine the length of time between your drive from Manchester to the Cedar Rapids Police Department and subtract the amount of time on which this video is doing recording and shown to the jury, we would know the amount of silence that was taking place during that ride.
No, we had other small talk. This is just a portion of our conversation.
Including the small talk?
Not everything. I mean, in 45 minutes of driving, we talked about a variety of things, but this is just a portion of it. There was some extended periods of time where he's not talking, and there are other periods of time that he or I may have said something to each other.
Then, Your Honor, we object that it's not a complete rendition of the encounter between Investigator Denlinger and Mr. Burns during this ride. It's not complete.
Okay. Mr. Maybanks, any response to the objection?
Your Honor, these parties aren't required to enter a full recording or transcript containing brief periods of silence or matters which are not relevant to the proceedings. The defense wishes to question about that. I think that they can do so.
Okay. I am concerned under the rules of evidence. I think if a document were to come in, and I'm going to treat this as a document, the entire thing should come in rather than just a portion of it. So if the state wishes to amend its exhibit and play the entire recording, I'll let you do that.
Your Honor, can we approach?
You may. 25 minutes, just so that we aren't having you sit back there waiting on us.